Alright, so what is up guys? In this video I'm going to be showing you how to create an SQLite database in Python, and it's going to be an interactive database this time. So you're going to be able to insert a user, display users and delete users, and also edit them. And also you'll be able to retrieve all the users from the database. And even if we close the program and reopen it, all of the data will remain there. So let's go through the example program. The first thing I'm going to show you is that we have some users, so I'll click on 2. And it will display our users in alphabetical order. Then let's pretend we want to insert a new user. We're going to click on 1. It's going to ask us for the name. We're going to say Maria. She's going to be 34 years old and her skills include finances. Now if we go back and display the users, you'll see that Maria will have been successfully added to the list under Luigi. And let's pretend we want to delete a user, such as this zebra over here, because what's he doing over there? We don't know. So we're going to go ahead and click on 3 or type 3, and we want to delete zebra. So we'll click on that and it will say user successfully deleted. Now if we go back to display the users, we can now see that zebra is no longer part of the database. Then if we go ahead and type 4, we'll be able to edit a user. So let's go ahead and edit Maria. So we'll type in Maria and we want to edit that her age is actually 45. So we'll type in age and we will edit the age field to 45. Now when we display users, you'll see that Maria is 45 and she still works in finances and that everything was updated correctly. And the final method I want to show you is that if we type 5 and we click or we type in the name of the person, it will give us this small summary of what the person does. So Maria is 45 years old and works as a finances. But of course, this can be edited to actually make sense. But this is just for the sample purpose of showing you that you can take these values out and actually use them later. And finally, to close the program, all you have to do is type in 0 and the program will terminate. And just to show you that the data has persisted, we're going to go ahead and click on run again. And we're just going to click on to display the users that we had from last time. So that is the sample program we'll be making. And the first thing we want to do is actually create a new project in Python. And it's probably going to look like this, but just get rid of all this dummy data. And the first thing we have to do is import SQLite. So we're going to do import SQLite 3, which should be part of your Python project by default. But if it's not there, just type in pip install SQLite 3. And we also want to import the system. And now the first thing you want to do when creating an SQLite database is creating a connection. So we type in connection, and that's going to equal SQLite3.connect. And here's where you insert the name of the database you want to create. So for this one, I'm just going to type in people.db, and it's going to check if this exists. And if it does not exist, it will create it for us. Then we have to go ahead and create a cursor, and that's going to equal connection.cursor. Now, the first thing we're going to create down here is a try block, and we're going to use this cursor to execute an SQLite query. And inside here, we're going to type in that we want to create a table that's named people, and that it's going to have 3 different rows. One's going to be a name of text, the next one's going to be an age of integer, and the final one is going to be a profession, which I'm just going to call skills of type string. And it's very important that your spelling is correct for this, or else it will not work. And we need to add the except block. And for the except block, we're going to just log an exception as E. And if we get to this exception, we're just going to pass, which means it's going to skip out of this whole statement. So this will try to create a table. If the table already exists, it's going to throw an exception, but it's not going to crash the program because we handled it just by skipping this completely. So the next thing we have to do is create a function that checks if the user is unique, which means we do not want to have duplicates of the same name because that makes it very difficult to edit. And usually you would use an ID, a very unique ID for this, but I'm just going to use the name for this example because it's very simple. So we're going to type in definition user is unique. And inside here, we just type in name because that's what we want to insert. And the way we're going to do this is by checking all of the rows. But first we have to get the rows by calling cursor.execute. And we need to create another query that's going to select the name, age, and skills from people.fetchAll. And this will return a list of all those people inside the list. And then we need to create a for loop. So for user in rows, if user at the index of 0 which will retrieve the name, is equal to the name that we have inserted, then we want to return false because the name already exists in the database and it is essentially taken. Otherwise, if we do not find any name that corresponds, we are just going to return true because it is a name that we can use. So as you can see, for this example, I'm using the name, but a better way to do this would probably be with a username. And again, this is just for the purpose of the tutorial. So next, we're going to create a function that allows us to insert a user into the database. So we're going to type in def insert underscore db. And the first thing we want to get is an input for the name. So we're going to do input, and it's going to ask for a name. Then we'll make an if statement. So if the user is unique, and we need to get the string of the name that we pass in here, then we will continue on with this statement and we will retrieve the age, which is going to be an input, which says age. And we need to get the skills, which is going to be an input of skills. Now under this, we need to check whether the fields are empty, because if it's empty, we do not want to insert it into the database. So we're going to check if name is not equal to nothing and age is not equal to nothing and the skills are not equal to nothing. Then we can go ahead and type in cursor.execute, and we need to create another SQLite query, but this time we need to format it so we can use other values. And we're going to type in insert into people, and we want to insert these values. So values, add some quotation marks and curly brackets. So the first one we want to insert is the name. The second one is the age. And the third one is going to be the skill set. And once we've inserted these values into the database, we want to commit them. So we have to call connection.commit. And this essentially just tells the program to save these values inside the database. Then we're going to call print, and we're going to add the name plus has been added to the database. And if this doesn't work, we're going to create an else statement that says one of the fields are empty. Please try again. And we're going to add the insertDB function as a recursive function. Then for the other if statement, we're also going to add an else block there. And we're just going to add print and write name is already in the database, which essentially tells us that we cannot use that name. And the next thing to do is add a function that allows us to edit the user in case we make a mistake. So edit_db. And the first thing inside here that we have to do is retrieve a few inputs. So the first thing is the input for the name. And we'll just ask the user to type the name of the person you'd like to edit. We're going to create another value of field, and this is going to take an input for which would they like to edit. And I'm just going to copy and paste it in to save some time. So which field would you like to edit? The name, age, or the skills? And we need to create one more for the updated field. And inside here, we'll define what value we want to change that field to. So right below, we're going to add a try block. And we're going to write cursor.execute. And we want to format this string. So F and a pair of quotation marks, updates, people, set, and we will call our field, which will equal where name is equal to this. And we need to insert these values immediately after. So we're going to add a pair of parentheses and add the updated field and the name. Then we have to call connection.commit to save the changes and add a print statement that says we have successfully updated the user. Then create an except block, which will give us an exception as E, and we will just print this exception. And that will take care of being able to edit our users. The next one we want to do is create a method that gets the user info. Get user info. And we're going to create two values. One's going to be for the target, and we need to create an input. And here the user should be able to insert the name of the person they are looking for. Then we have to create this rows, cursor.execute, because this will help us search for the target person. So we have to create a SQLite query, select name, age, skills from people, where name is placeholder. And for the placeholder, we have to add the target name, .fetchAll. And here we want to retrieve the value of the list item that we have just searched for. So it's going to return a list, which means we have to call it by the use of indexes. So we're going to use name equals rows at the index of 0, at the index of 0. And we're going to do the same thing for the other two. Age equals and skills equal, and just paste that there and paste that over here. Then we're going to write 1 and 2. And just to make this a bit easier to understand, I created this comment right here, which pretty much explains why we do this. As you can see, the row will return something like this, which means this is the first item of this list. And if we want to get the name, we have to refer to the first index of this item here, which is 0. So name is 0, and age is 1, and skills is 2. The reason we have this one over here is because this is a list inside a list essentially, which means we have to refer to the first item in this list, which is at 0. But that is why we do all of this, to get these values. But moving on, we're going to create a print statement, and we are going to format this so we can add our curly brackets and add the name, which is age years old, and works as a skills. So essentially this function here shows you how you can retrieve individual values that you search for from the database and how to use them in real life applications. The next function we have to create is the delete item function. So definition delete db, and the first thing we have to insert is a name. So let's get the input from the user again. And inside here, we are going to ask the user to type the name of the person they want to delete. And if the name is not equal to nothing, then we can ask our cursor to execute this command for us, which is going to be an SQLite query that says delete from people where name is placeholder. Then we have to insert the name, and we need to commit this deletion. Add a print statement that says the user was successfully deleted. Next, we have to create a function that displays all of the database to the user. So display underscore db, and we're going to create a value of rows, which is going to be cursor.execute select name age skills from people, and we are going to order this list by name ascending, and we want to fetch all of them. Then we're going to create a print statement that says users, colon, and for user in rows, we want to print this formatted string, which starts with a hyphen, and it takes the user at the index of 0. And actually, we're just going to copy this 2 more times. So 1, 2, and we're just going to take this field over here and change it to 1 and to 2. So if you recall from earlier, the index of 2 is going to give us the skills, index of 1 is going to give us the age, and the index of 0 is going to give us the name. And finally, there's only 2 more functions we have to create, and one is to handle us exiting the database. So we're going to create a definition that's called exit db, and here we're just going to close the cursor, we're going to close the connection, and we are going to exit the program. And finally, it's time to glue this all together by creating the function that will allow us to select the options. So we're going to type in def select underscore options. And I'm going to paste in what I had earlier, but it is an input block, as you can see over here. And essentially it just says type 0 to exit, type 1 to insert a new user. It just gives a list of commands for the user to use. Then we have to create a few if statements. So if options is equal to 0, then we want to exit the database. And you're just going to have to do the same thing for the rest of them. I'm just going to copy and paste that in. So as you can see, 1 will insert into the database, 2 will display the database, 3 will delete the database, and so on. It will correspond to what you write in your string file. And then just to make sure this program runs continuously, we're going to create an infinite loop. So while true, we want to have our select options continuously run over and over and over until we click on or type in 0. Now we can go ahead and click on run. And as you can see, when you click on run, you'll have a database created inside your project. Right here, mine is called people.db. And the first thing we want to do is display the users, but we have no users. That's fine. So let's insert a user. And this one's going to be my name, Federico. I am, let's say, 100 years old, and I am a programmer. It will tell you that I have been added to the database. And let's now display the users. So if you display, you'll see that I am now officially part of the database. But now let's try to insert my name again. And it's going to say no, because the name is already in the database. So essentially this is my username, and usually you would use some sort of unique ID for this, but I think username is fine for now. Now let's go ahead and edit this user. So and there's only one user, so I'm going to type in my name. Let's edit the age to 27. Now if we go ahead and display the users, you'll see that I am officially 27 in the program. And let's just rerun the program to make sure that this data persists. Now if we go ahead and display the users, I will still be there. Let's go ahead and add one more user. Let's say Mario, age of 17, and he is a plumber. Display the users. We will now have 2 users that are officially part of the database. Let's go ahead and delete a user, which will be my name. And now if we go and display the users, we should only have Mario there. And I made a mistake inside getUserInfo, so go ahead and go back to that function. And I forgot to add a comma here. And that's all you have to do. Now if we go back and rerun the program, and we click on or type in 5, and we get the user information for Mario, it will tell us what Mario does and what he works as and how old he is. And if we type in 0, we can exit the program, knowing that all of our data has persisted and that we have successfully created an SQLite database in Python. But with that being said, if you have any questions, feel more than free to leave them in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.